Hi, Danu. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can,
Okay,
Julian.
awesome.
Yeah, how are you?
Doing well. It's been quite a week.
Yeah, I, I bet it has been, Julian.
But everything's going great. My sister should be home tomorrow, fingers
Oh,
crossed.
oh,
So
wow. Yeah,
really
she's,
looking forward to having her back.
yeah, oh, she's been there for a while.
Yeah, since last Wednesday.
Yeah, wow. Well, it's a pretty intense procedure, that's for sure.
It is. It knocked her back quite a bit, but she has all the tubes out and she's ready to come home.
Oh, wow. That's good news. I'm glad about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah, yeah.
How are
So,
you?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I was a little bit confused. There was a little notice on the Zoom when I logged in about an AI or L. I didn't know what that was.
It's AI, and I think they're using it to help with meeting minutes, if I remember correctly. I don't
Oh,
know how, but I can get clarification from the city clerk's office.
oh, okay, yeah. I uh I didn't know, but I went ahead and accepted like it was okay. So
Okay, so did I.
okay,
But yeah,
yeah.
I'll find out more about that. I'll chat with Elena, who's our new city clerk.
Oh, right. Did she just get appointed then? Did they just move her up then?
Yeah, I think the announcement was made last week, so pretty big
Okay.
deal.
Yeah, well, good for her. She's doing a good job.
She is.
Um,
Anything we need to discuss before the meeting starts?
mm, Not that I can think of, Jillian. Really, it's helpful to meet before the meeting just to kind of go over everything. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Let me look through my notes here real quick, though, just to make sure. Mm. You got all that stuff about the park turf that I forwarded to you about El Paso Beckers.
Yes, I
Just
did.
just
And I'm going
showing
to be
you.
honest, Danu, I'm going to go over that tomorrow, but I have not had a chance to dive into it yet.
Oh, understood. Understood, Jillian. If you have any questions, just give me a holler, okay?
Definitely.
Yeah. Yep. That's about it, really.
Okay. Hey, Matthew. Oh, he's still connecting.
Mm.
Hi, Matthew. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes. Can you hear
All right.
me?
Yes. Welcome. Love the orange.
Oh, yes, always. Hmm.
Hey, Chris and Jan. Welcome to the meeting.
Hello, thank you.
Dave Crawford is won't be here tonight. Uh, one, two, three, four. So I think we just need five of us for a quorum, eh? Hi, Candace.
Hi, good to see you.
Are you feeling better?
I am, but I have to say it's a little bit still with me. It's very weird.
Wow.
I'm just, some days I have a lot of energy, and then other days I feel like, what is happening?
Hmm.
But I'm definitely not like I was. So, but thanks for asking.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. How you doing, Jan? Mute. Mute, Jan.
I was
Hey,
trying to,
Rebecca. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
was trying to load stuff.
Gotcha. How are you doing, Rebecca?
Doing good.
Great. And Anthony's getting on too. Natalie. I don't know if I think Tim's gonna be here. I'm not sure. I'll just wait a little bit longer here and see if Tim gets on. If not, he can just join in. Well, it's 6:02. Maybe I'll go ahead and just start the meeting. Is that okay with everybody? We have a quorum here. I would like to call the regular PERB meeting of March 4, 2024 to order. And the first thing of business is the reappointment of Chris Grow that was accepted by City Council. Yay! Now 4 years, Chris. And also the reappointment of Rebecca Wood. Woo! Now 4 years,
Yay.
Rebecca. Accepted by City Council. And then our next business is item 3, election of new officers. Do I need to go over what the duties are of all the officers? Are we all on board with what responsibilities are entailed with chair, vice chair, and secretary? Does anybody have any questions?
Can you just give a quick
brief-
recap, even though it should be probably common sense?
No, not really. Actually,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Okay.
So, some of the duties of the chairperson is to go ahead and set the agenda and run the meetings. Also, a lot of the duties are to appear before City Council, like to prepare and present the budget for PERB and for any other thing that might come up that council might want to more information from PERB about. Some of what I've been doing for our special strategic meetings is to locate and reserve a space and also to get food for us. And then sometimes just writing up a lot of reports and things like that for either City Council or writing letters back, things like that. For vice chair, they would take over the meetings and get the agenda submitted to Alicia, which is usually Wednesday of the prior week before our meetings. That's when the agenda and minutes have to be submitted to Alicia Stoke, our admin for, I guess it's public, is it public Public Works, Jillian? Or for us anyway?
Yeah, for all of public services.
Yeah, Public Services, yeah. And then, the secretary is responsible for taking minutes and submitting all the minutes. And, they and the agenda for our next meeting get submitted on the Wednesday prior to our meetings. And that's it. So does anybody have any questions?
Can I nominate somebody?
Yeah, sure, Rebecca.
I
And let me-
nominate Danu for the chair.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to let someone else have a stab at it as well. I was actually thinking I should probably give like little what do you call those, workshops? To, start bringing more people into the fold if they want to step up to the plate. But meanwhile, I'll accept the nomination. And thank you. It's my honor to serve Parab. Anybody else? Does anybody want to volunteer? Okay, then if not, then the nomination is for me to continue as the chair. Can I get a vote on that? All approve?
Here,
2, 3,
I
4.
definitely, yeah, if you're willing to keep doing it, yes. We want you to
Okay.
keep doing it.
Okay, all right. Okay, then that's approved. And then the next person is the vice chair. Is there anybody who'd like to nominate for the vice chair?
I know Tim's trying to join us, but I'll nominate Tim to continue as vice chair.
Okay, great. Should we wait for Tim to join us so he can say yay or nay?
He says if we'll have him, he will continue doing it. So
Okay, very good. All right. So Rebecca, you want to second that nomination of Tim Bresnahan for vice
Yeah.
chair?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, great. Okay, all approve.
aye.
Aye. Okay. Tim passes unanimously as our vice chair to continue on. And secretary, now, Chris, would you like to speak about this a little bit?
Sure. I am willing to let someone else take, have the opportunity to be secretary. And so, yeah, that's that. I would like to offer that to the group.
Would anybody be willing to step up to be our new secretary and take minutes for us?
so she doesn't want to run again? You don't want to run again, Christina?
I've been doing minutes. I don't know how long, at least 3 years.
Yeah, well, I think more than that,
I
actually.
think maybe, I don't know, a long
It-
time, like
Yeah,
five or so years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't mind doing it, but I would love a break. Or, if folks wanted to, I don't know, take turns, but I feel like that could get a little iffy. So anyway, if somebody wanted to take that over, I would be happy to guide you and impart my knowledge about how I take minutes.
Do you want to just share that real quickly right now?
Sure. Well, Alicia makes it super easy because she does everything on Google Docs. And so all you have to do is open the document in Google Docs, open the agenda, and then you just take the minutes from there. The other thing that has made it extremely easy as well is that all of our meetings are now on the YouTube channel, the Manitou Springs City YouTube channel. So you can do the minutes at your leisure when you have time. You don't have to do it. I don't typically do it in real time during the meeting, other than like the attendance and sort of like the timestamps and things like that. And everything else I do on my free time, whenever I have time, and watch the YouTube video. So It's pretty easy. And then I just save that document and send it, share it to the group for edits. Ideally, probably faster than I've been doing it, probably a week before would probably be good to give people a chance to make any edits, and then Alicia just takes it from there. So it's actually pretty straightforward.
That sounds like a really great job. Wouldn't somebody like to step up and experience that?
I will say the perk of it is that it makes me review the previous meeting and like actually become oriented to like what is going on and what we've talked about. And I have enjoyed that part of it for sure. I am a busy person like the rest of us, with a job and a family, and sometimes I feel a little bit pressed for time. So
Hmm.
I'll just say how much we appreciate your doing it. Yes, and I understand the pressures and just but yes, thank you for doing that.
So does that mean, Anthony, that you're not like,
No, that means I understand completely what her sentiment and yeah, but right now it's not something I can take on right now. So
okay. Yeah, hey, what about Candace? What do you think, Candace? You could get
Oh.
you could get more intimate with Parab.
Well, where are the other people that didn't show up tonight?
Well, Dave Crawford is out of town, and I'm not sure where Colin is. And I think that's all we have on our board. Is that right? Who am I missing? Am I missing anybody?
Oh, what the hell? Go ahead. You can nominate me.
Yay,
Go ahead.
Candace! Bravo! Yay! All right, I second that. Okay, everyone who approves Candace being our new secretary, aye. That passes unanimously. Woohoo!
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Candace. And we're here to help you anytime, okay? If you need help.
Thank you.
I
Great.
Thank you.
appreciate you, Candace. Happy to set up a time to meet with you if you want to do
Thank
that.
you. You and I will be very close, Christina.
All righty, great. All right, let's move on with approval of our minutes. We have December 4, 2023, our draft minutes for approval. Have you guys had a chance to go through those? If you haven't, you can go ahead and take a quick look.
So I have a question, really quick. Sorry to go back. So
No, it's okay.
when do these rules, when does my role begin? Like
Uh,
now?
no. Well, well, it could.
Well,
Because technically our term ends on February 28th.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll just take really good notes here.
Or we can help you get on YouTube so that you don't feel pressured to have to do it tonight.
Yeah,
But
Candace, I'm already on it. So I already I already have the document open and taking notes, and
Okay, great. Just
yeah,
share it
so
with me.
yeah, totally. I'll share
And
it
then
with
I can
you
just see what it looks like and I'll just continue.
for sure.
But you and I should get together.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
do have a question about the December 4th minutes. Jan, was that the one where you said you were actually there and not absent? You're muted.
yeah, I think that was January 29.
It was
Oh.
the 29th that I was there for the strategic. I was gone for the December.
Gone for the
but I
December,
was
you were there for
the
the
strategic.
January. Okay, cool. I'll jot that down here.
And then there's another thing on the January one, but we can get to that.
Okay. Okay, have you guys all reviewed the December 2023 minutes? If so, can I get a motion to approve those minutes from December 2023?
I motion to approve.
I'll second. Okay, is anybody opposed? Then I will take it that we all approve. Item 2, draft minutes for the PARP strategic meeting for January 29. With those edits to fix the attendance to show that Jan Johnson did attend and that Candace was absent. And I
I have
also
one-
have, go
I have
ahead,
one more edit too.
go ahead.
And I basically, I need to check this with Jillian. My recollection when we were talking about the pickleball courts and the screens, I thought you, and it wasn't reflected in the minutes. I was remembering, and I might be wrong, that you were gonna send out a little, I don't know if it was a doodle poll or some way to get feedback from the community about whether or not they wanted screens. Am I remembering that right or not?
Yeah, we discussed doing a survey similar to the survey we did for the hybridizing of the tennis court. We just got our new PIO, so we are in the process of working on that, and I'll have an
Okay.
update at the next meeting.
Okay, and I think we also talked about possibly expanding the reach, possibly with Nextdoor or something like that.
Mhm. Yep,
Okay,
Mitchell is savvy with Nextdoor, so we'll make sure it reaches more platforms.
all right, thanks, Jillian,
Yep.
and thanks, Chris.
Okay. And then I have one correction, which is pertaining to the memorial bench. That it has not been installed, however, it has been purchased and is ready to be installed. So then, other than those 4 corrections or 4 edits, or was it 3? The survey, next door, fix the attendance, and the memorial bench. That's all, 3 edits. I'll move to approve the revised edited minutes from January 29, 2024.
I second.
Okay, all approve? Aye.
I
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Okay, do we have anybody from the public for comments that aren't on the agenda? Okay, we don't have any presentations tonight. Then let's move on to reports. Matthew, Arborist report. Want to go ahead and bring us up to date here?
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, I did the State of the Canopy address at council on January. Yeah, January. And that went well. Some of the tree removals that you all weighed in on last fall, we've been conducting those, the moderate and high risk trees, 2 trees in the last week, and those will be replaced this year. I have good news. It looks like we're on track to get a Colorado Tree Coalition grant, a 50-50 match. We'll spend $5,000 and they'll write us a check for $2,500, which is exciting. The purpose of the grant was to get a Arbor Day planting in the cemetery, because the cemetery is in pretty rough shape with their declining silver maples and generally even age stand. So that's exciting. Again, the offer is open if anybody wants to come out and do a tree risk assessment to see how we quantify trees before we look at removing them. That is always on the table.
I would recommend that, by the way. I thought it was very educational.
Matthew, what was the name of that organization that you got the grant from again?
It's not pinned down yet, but the grant would be through the Colorado Tree Coalition. So submitted that, and oh geez, December maybe? Can't remember exactly. But I wrote it as a 50-50 match because the cemetery is pretty rough, and the hope is to do a really big planting on Arbor Day, which we'll do whether or not we get the grant, but it'd sure be nice to have some money to help.
Yes. Okay. Okay, do we have anything for Matthew? Questions about that? Jillian, do we want to talk very briefly about the tree committee and kind of what Parab kind of decided in terms of committing to be the tree committee for what, until June or July? I believe that's what we all kind of agreed on, or maybe we should agree formally on this at this meeting tonight.
I
But-
think it would be helpful to clarify, because I know
Okay.
it was discussed at the January meeting.
Right.
But I think it'd be very helpful to clarify at this meeting.
Okay. So if I recall, we discussed about whether Parab wanted to continue being the tree committee, or if we wanted to go ahead and begin reaching out to the community to have a tree committee comprised of interested community members. And I think what Colin had suggested was to have Parab continue in this role for like another 6 months, which would either be June or July. So are we all in agreement with that? Okay, Jan's in agreement. What, Jan, Chris, are you in agreement also?
I guess I have a
Rebecca?
question. I have a question.
Yeah,
I would love it if we only had to be in that position for 6 or 7 months. My concern is, since it's such a new role, I would hate for, because it's so important for our community, I would hate for us to say we'll do it for 6 months and then no one else, or someone, a committee without the experience kind of steps in, and Jillian and one person from Parab kind of has to wrangle again, and be buffers with the community when maybe things are not clear. I just have some caution on it.
mhm,
Like I said, when I started, I would hope we only have to do it for 6 or 7 months, but it's such an important role. I don't know. That's all I wanted to say.
mhm. Can I get some other feedback, some other thoughts from Parab?
Danu, it's Tim. I finally made it back.
Hey, Tim.
And yeah, I'm on board with that change. I don't think that that's unusual. I think many communities that have a similar function do it as a standalone board. And I also think that with the expertise that we have now in the city with our arborists, that's something that can probably be picked up relatively easily. And the role for the community members, rather than necessarily being that of expert arborists, be that of the opinion and feeling of the community. So I support that change.
Rebecca, thoughts?
Nope, I think we discussed this at the last one. So that works for me.
Okay, Candace, Anthony?
I just know, like, I have some neighbors that have like a horticulture degree. I think we've got a lot of experts around that could probably get involved.
Okay, Anthony?
Yeah, I agree with what people have said. So I think so we'll just keep doing in the interim until you can stand up kind of a group that wants to focus on this. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Matthew, do you have any feelings about this before I move on to my follow-up of how I envision this kind of evolving and being able to structure it? in these like next 6 months?
I'm just glad y'all aren't tired of me yet.
You're funny.
Wait, what did what did you say, Matthew?
Oh, sorry, did that not come through?
No,
Oh, I
you
said
said
I'm just glad you're not tired of me.
oh, no, of course not.
No,
We're
no,
thrilled,
it's
we're
whatever.
thrilled to have you be here.
It's whatever you all, whatever council decides. Like I'm just here to serve. Whatever you need from me, I'm here. So if it's fair, great. If it's a separate tree committee, great. Either way, I will be here.
Great. So here's my thought, and please, you guys, weigh in. I'm thinking that during this 6-month time period, I would like to take this time to go ahead and create some guidelines and some maybe, I don't know, criteria for the tree committee, which would work under Matthew's supervision. And so basically the tree committee would be making recommendations to Matthew as the arborist and to Parab. And it'd be great if one or two members of Parab could join the tree committee. And then maybe we could have quarterly updates, something like that. But part of the original intention of having a tree group was to include the community that is really invested in our trees and wanting to, help them feel like they had a voice or make them feel empowered, like they had a say so. But ultimately, it would be Matthew's call. So that's kind of what I'm imagining. So if we could take the 6-month time and start creating some kind of guideline or criteria, because then we're gonna have to go back to council and change the tree ordinance. Right, Jillian?
Yeah, and I'd love to get Natalie's thoughts on this, because it does require an ordinance change, which would be, city council would need to approve. So Natalie, what would that entail when Para brings this to council? Should they already have their guidelines in place and what this external committee is going to look like? What are the steps here? Because I am unfamiliar with this process.
Sure. I mean, I don't think that to some degree there's no rule, right, of how to do it. But I do believe that council would love to have as much of the groundwork done as possible. So I love where you're going with this. I love the idea of creating the guidelines, and even taking the time to sort of explain why you've come to this place. As far as updating the ordinance itself, that should be a pretty minor change. I think we update ordinances all the time. So I don't think it's like a big ask. So I based on everything that's been said, I think you're on the right track. I do think the sooner you can get on request to get on the agenda, the better. I think it's taking 2 or 3 months potentially to get on the agenda. So, a few months in, if you guys want to work with Jillian to get that in place, so you know what your goals are and what your deadline would be. But, and again, I just think the more clarity you can have as well about how Matt will work with the committee and work with Parab, which it sounds like you've been thinking about. So I think it's good. If that helps.
Okay. Do I have any volunteers on Parab who'd like to work on this, creating guidelines, criteria? And then, of course, we'd work with Matthew as well.
Well, I think that Tim sounds like he has looked into how other communities structure this type of
Thanks,
thing.
Chris.
You're a policy man, Tim.
Yeah, well, that's because I'm the last person that wrote a proposed to change code ordinance, which was, did we just figure out when that was? 2015 or 2016?
Well, the organic land management.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Well, you are good at it, Tim.
Yeah, you are so good at it.
Now I have to say I had Jenna helping me, or rather, we were helping each other.
I think you have the experience, Tim, and it's.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to organize
Thank
that,
you.
and I was just, yeah, and if anybody else wants to join me, I think it's helpful to have 2 people on it just to bounce ideas around, because the way that I would see this working kind of similarly to what we did before with the OLM was to try to brainstorm kind of a scope. And then from there, we looked at a bunch of different communities that seem to be similar size with similar aspirations, both in Colorado and then kind of throughout the United States. And we came up with maybe 5 or 6 examples to take a look and see kind of what was out there, and then start to adapt what we wanted to those things to draft our own thing. So I think that probably by our next meeting, we could have at least a framework to discuss with Parib as a whole, the direction that we want to go with it. And then after that, we can start the work of actually writing a proposal for the ordinance. So anybody interested in joining?
Happy hour at your house, Tim?
Something like that.
I'm in.
Okay. And if anybody else wants to participate, that's fine. We don't need to
Yeah,
limit it to just
definitely.
2 people. And this can be there can be flow to this. Nobody has to decide right now. You want to think about it.
Yeah, if you wanna be part of this, just send me a text or a email or something.
Absolutely. And then of
and
course,
then-
I
and
mean,
then-
we have to note though too that there is at least one member of Parib that has an advanced degree in public policy. I'm not going to say who that is, but anyway.
Okay. Was that a sub?
Training
Was that?
on tree policy, yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know. I'm pretty sure your thesis touched on trees somewhere.
They did print paper copies, so
Yeah. Okay. Whatever it takes.
Okay, let's see here. Matthew, does that sound okay to you?
It does, yes. And the tree ordinance already has the responsibilities for the tree committee. So I think that'd probably be a good place to start and then build from there. And with
Okay.
that, unless you need me, I'll rattle off.
Okay, great. Thank
See
you.
y'all.
Bye, Matthew.
Bye. No, I broke it.
Okay, all right, then we'll move on with our Parks and Rec report. Basically, you all know that we're gonna start the Soda Springs Park Phase 2 construction in October. Is that right, Jillian?
That's correct. That's the timeline as of right now.
Okay. And then Jillian and I are gonna meet with Hort Copeland and Mock on the, what is it, March 13th? Next week.
Yeah, next Wednesday.
They have like about 70% of the construction documents drawn up. So that'll be reviewing all of those documents, going over costs, estimates, etc. Any questions? Okay,
Thank you.
if not, then I'd like to turn to our new council liaison, Natalie Johnson. Could you please give us an update
Sure.
on the District 14 soccer field for public use?
Yeah, so so at the last meeting, we discussed that, right? What kind of a relationship we could have with the school district to utilize their fields and maybe other other facilities that they have that the city can probably never have for various reasons. And we initially, Danu and I heard back from Susie, and she just didn't say no, but she said, it's complicated and there's a lot of uses and things like that. So I spoke with Sean today, the superintendent, and just said, this seems like something that we can make work, but it's just going to take a minute. And that it's probably something where we would need to really have city staff work with school staff and put together some kind of an MOU and spend a little time looking at calendars and talking about options. And he said, absolutely. And he agreed that Manitou needed to work with the district in terms of things like the track and even the auditorium and the soccer field and just a whole variety of things. And so basically the feedback I received was positive, but again, it's not going to probably be easy to figure out how to make it work, but I did get a positive response. So I don't know what that looks like. I can't really ask Jillian to do this. So I don't know how you all work with para. Would you ask Denise? I don't know how you work with staff to do things like this.
Well, see, it would seem to me the first place we would start would be the community and see how much interest is out there. And then maybe trying to organize something on the community level for groups who might want to use the school facilities. And then go from there, I guess, would be where I would start if I was trying to gather, interest to see who would be interested.
Well, and I know like with the track, obviously a lot of community members walk the track in the evenings, and I don't know what the policy is around that. And so it may even be something that, Parab could look at as an asset and even share that information with the community about how to utilize that facility, because that's something that's already sort of in place. I just don't know what it is, and then go to something more complicated like the soccer field. But
Wait, Natalie,
Mhm.
if it's like anything else in Manitou, there isn't anything. there is no policy. We're just making it up as we go along. Come on.
I know, it's just schools are complicated, so you
Well-
can't just walk on a school property anymore.
Well, yeah,
would
that's interesting. I mean, I think about my own school district growing up. It seemed like
Okay, you
school
just walk.
property for the most part was open access to community members. I mean, like the track particularly, people used that all the time, including my father making me go and work out in the summertime.
Right.
But would this look like some sort of would there need to be some sort of like sharing agreement? Would
I would
these
do like an
things need
MOU
to
or
be
something. Yeah.
right? Okay.
That's what I see. Yeah. Jan.
I'm kind of thinking we should maybe clear the air with Denise on this, just because she could be a useful partner. Especially, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think
Or do we have any direction, like a template that maybe other districts might already be doing that could give us some insight in terms of what something like this might look like?
Or I would even reach out first to our neighbor Tim, right? So like Kevin, because he he organizes a lot of pickup games for soccer, for instance. And I think right now he's using in the summer he uses Fields, but he like targeting core people who would use it right away. I think
Mhm.
that would be smart too.
That's a good idea, Rebecca, because I know he coaches soccer at the school and he teaches at the school, right? What's his last name? Kevin.
That would be Coach Connors to you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Coach Connors.
And
yeah.
he organizes just pickup games for kids and other activities. So I think, again, there's lots of people who do that. So reaching out to those first would be good, or not first, but as well would be important.
So our pickup games, is that just like the general public then, or is it actually his team that he coaches affiliated with the district?
No, because it's important to get kids out playing. So he'll just have, any kids from this age can come show up. We'll it's like divvy teams up. I mean, it's pickup games. So yeah, not just his kids.
Yeah, it's semi school. The core group are kids that he coaches, but then the invitation kind of extends to siblings and friends. He tries to keep the umbrella specific to Manitou. But it's not like it's just a single team that plays. It goes from middle school with even maybe sometimes a couple of high school students all the way down to third and fourth graders. He calls himself a soccer evangelist.
That's great. Well, it sounds like he'd be a good place to start then. So
how about Ben Mack too?
For sure.
Ben who?
Mack, M-A-C-K. Lisa Quintana's husband with the 10 spot. I don't know if you know him.
I don't.
But
But,
he teaches at the school and is a soccer coach and.
Oh, okay.
But so anyway, yeah, so I guess, I mean, and I also feel comfortable mentioning this to Denise as well, but just again, I think it's probably not going to be easy, but it's definitely not a no, which is good. So
Well, that I would say that I've been attending the district action meetings, and I think there's I mean, obviously operationalizing these types of things is difficult, but I know that there's an interest to forge more and better bonds between the school district and the community. And this sounds like a great opportunity.
absolutely.
Tim, would you be willing to open the conversation up with Ben and Kevin, since you're kind of in that loop already?
Definitely Kevin. I don't know Mac, but I could start with Kevin and sort of see where he is with that. And I think that I don't know where it would fit, but maybe this is something that we could also introduce to the district action committee meeting in some form. Natalie, I don't know if you
I like that a lot.
would have a thought in terms of which subcommittee to do that, but maybe that's a good place to do it. I know that community involvement and building relationships is kind of a subtopic with the capital improvement subcommittee,
I
but
was
there may
thinking
be
capital
others as
improvement.
well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was thinking that group, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so that's another place. Now unfortunately, we just had a meeting. So I think it's going to be a month before the next one, if
Mhm.
I'm not mistaken. But that's something we can try to work in there
Okay.
as
What's
well,
the name-
in addition to what we were just discussing.
What was the name of that school group, the meeting? What's that called, Tim?
It's the DAC, the DAC, which I think stands for District Action Committee. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody.
I think it's accountability, but.
Or accountability, yes,
Yeah.
I think you're right. I don't know, I want it to be action. Accountability
Mhm,
sounds negative. Action sounds positive.
Nice.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Any questions for Natalie or Tim?
And just I don't know if at the end of the meeting, if there's anything in particular you'd like me to mention during council correspondence, it helps me if there's something you would like me to mention, I guess.
Thank you for all that.
Oh no, thank you
Okay.
so much for taking on the liaison role, Natalie. I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to having you here with us, and I really appreciate everything you're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm going to say this is fun, but you know.
But it's also more.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. Okay, I'm gonna move on to our item 6, the Park and Rec Director's Report. Miss Jillian.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen with everybody. Uh-oh, bear with me. There it is. All right, you should be seeing a PDF now. Let's see, Danu, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see it? Okay, perfect. So director's report, we have a proposal from one of our staff members. His name is Josh Farmer. He's our lead parks maintenance worker. He had the idea to have a floating fountain installed in Shriver Pond. So what this would do would help aerate and circulate the water. It would increase the habitat for aquatic life. It would help the pond from becoming stagnant, in addition to us making sure the pipe that goes into Fountain Creek is routinely unclogged, or we find a way to prevent it from clogging. So I wanted to share this. It's really exciting. The fountain itself is only about $1,600 total to install, and we have Trout Unlimited willing to support this project. So they have a fund basically that supports fish habitat in Fountain Creek and any associated watersheds. So that was pretty awesome. And our parks maintenance staff is working with them now. And just a few benefits I listed here, and I'll also share this report after the meeting. But basically aeration is really good for ponds, and Shriver Pond is very small. So the more we can do to circulate the water, and add more oxygen is going to help our fish and our ducks and the muskrat, who everyone mistakes for a baby beaver. It'll help everyone who's living in the pond. So I just wanted to show a picture of what the floating fountain could look like. And it is tethered to the ground. It's not floating around. It's not going to end up on the side of the pond. It'll stay in a general area. It's just called a floating fountain because the device floats on top of the water. All right, I see Jan raising the roof. Thank you. I'll let Josh know. That was well received.
Yes.
We have our spring and summer seasonal positions posted. So if you know anyone who's interested in an April through September or May through October position with the city, we're hiring a forestry technician, a parks maintenance technician, a janitorial maintenance technician, and then 2 downtown beautification crew members. So those positions are live on the city website right now. And those are 40-hour-a-week positions, except for the downtown beautification crew. That's a 32-hour-a-week position. So that's 4 days instead of 5. The Fields Park restroom remodel is finished. I don't know if anyone's seen it or used it yet, but go check it out if you haven't. All right, Jan, you're on top of it. Oh, well, you're a pickleballer, so of course you've seen it. So yeah, that project is finally complete, and we've ironed out all the kinks. The lock was sticking for a little bit, but Kevin fixed it. So we're happy to check that off the list. Our next project we're tackling as far as accessibility are the Shriver Park restrooms. So we're in the design process right now to make those restrooms accessible, and they'll both be gender neutral also. So we'll be minimizing from 2 stalls in each to 1 stall. But they'll be completely accessible and anyone can use either restroom. So we're excited for that as well. All right, chess table location. So on the park staff narrowed it down to 2 locations, and I would love for Parib's blessing on one of these 2 locations this evening, if possible. So what I'm showing you here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but I'm circling over here on the right. So they've identified a location in Fields Park along the Creek Walk Trail. And essentially the chess table would replace this existing bench you see. So these are the same area, it's just 2 different shots. On the left here is the location in Shriver Park. And I apologize for the photo. I'm teleworking and I couldn't be there to get the actual photo. And this is what I was sent by our park staff, but the arrow is actually pointing across the pond. So the chess table would be adjacent to that trail going between the pond and the parking lot. So I guess what are your, I know this is an agenda item too, Danu, but does anyone have any questions or thoughts on these 2 locations?
Danu here. At Shriver Park, I need a little bit, my bearings are a little bit off here. So
I know, it's a terrible photo. I apologize.
I know where the
So-
bridge is, and then I think there's some, is there to the right of that, is that another cluster of the picnic tables?
All right, let me
Yeah,
glasses here. Yes, so there's a picnic table, there's a cluster of benches over here, the
Uh-huh.
wooden benches we have. And I believe there's a picnic table right here behind this mound that has the trash can next to it.
uh-huh. But it's between the pond and the parking lot though. Huh.
It'd be closer to the pond. And honestly, we're pretty flexible with the location. I really like the Shriver Park location. I think it'd be peaceful, especially if it's near the water. With our new fountain, you could watch, the healthy ducks and fish swimming around. And I'm happy to provide an updated photo this week to the group, but this is what we have right now.
Yeah, maybe another maybe another photo would be helpful.
Okay.
Um
But as far as, how about we do this? How about we narrow it down to park? Which park
Yeah.
would Para prefer? That would be really helpful.
There's a lot of space there. In that Shriver area, there's it's a big space of grass. So it's not
Right.
very close. Where she's pointing is not at all close to the
Parking lot.
parking lot. No.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's closer to the pond, yeah.
Yeah.
That's somewhat there. I'm not sure about the location. And this is
Okay.
no diss on you, Jillian, because I think I have a general idea and it would make sense to have it close to the pond for the aeration, the peacefulness, and you'd get some shade from the tree. I was thinking that in the summertime too, it'd be nice to be somewhat under the tree so you could get some reprieve from this direct sun there.
Right.
The one in Fields, and I'm sure Candace knows this too, because she walks over there. There are people that sit on that bench a lot, and it'd be fine to have a table there for chess, but there are not quite a few people that just sit there and look at the creek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of older people walk with canes and stuff, and they sit on they really make use of those benches.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I like the Shriver location.
I think I do too. Should we take a
Okay.
vote? Do we need to take a vote on this? Or can we just all agree that maybe we like Shriver and want to stick to Shriver?
Driver's good.
Yeah.
Anybody opposed? Is anybody opposed to Shriver?
I wish Colin were here, but yep.
Oh, yeah, right, Colin, yeah. I actually thought that the picnic table was in a totally different location than where you're showing. I somehow thought it was going to be closer to where Matthew had planted 2 new trees. So it would have been in between the island, the water island, and also the creek. That's kind of what I was envisioning. So it would have been more like, I'm trying to think, I guess you'd go across the footbridge and it would have been over on the other side of the footbridge. But
We
you know
could
what?
also place it over there. And I mean, I'd be happy to host a site visit for us to walk and consider where the best location would be in Shriver. That was just one of the locations our parks maintenance staff pointed out that they thought would be ideal.
Mm-hmm.
When do you want to get it in, Jillian?
Well, that's a great question. We're going to be doing some pond restoration work this spring and summer. So most likely we'd like to get it in during the fall. I know that sounds really far away, but just based on what we're going to be doing in Shriver this year, it would be convenient for us to get it in later in the year as opposed to earlier.
Would it be good to have a site visit and so that you know where it's going to be before you do all of the work around there?
Absolutely, definitely.
Okay. Danu, should we have a site visit?
We could do that, or if you guys are walking through Shriver, if you want to take photos of your own, or maybe that'll be too confusing, eh? Maybe a site visit. Yeah, maybe we should do a site visit. Would you be amenable to that, Para?
Yes, I
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it'll be after March 13th then, right, Jillian?
Yes. Yeah. I'll be back in the office on the 11th.
Okay.
So yeah, anytime after then.
Why don't you put out some dates on a Google or a doodly?
All right, I'll doodle poll everybody with these dates.
Okay. When is spring break, teachers? When is spring break?
25th, week of the 25th.
Okay.
Danu,
Thanks,
should we
Jillian.
avoid spring break week?
I don't know.
I won't be around that week, but
Okay.
Neither will
Rebecca,
I.
Tim, okay. Yeah, maybe we should avoid spring break then.
Okay, we can do that. All right, well, I will send out that doodle poll. And a reminder, this was the table that we discussed at the December meeting, maybe. So this was the lowest cost. It met all of the criteria. And it has it, and this photo does not show the chessboard, but I guarantee there will be a chessboard on it. And it has 2 coats of a semi-gloss sealer, and this company swears it's vandalism proof. And if it's not, they'll replace it. So that was pretty important, I thought, because I know that was a concern. But it's low maintenance, it's easy to clean, it's easy to remove graffiti if it does get sprayed. And this side here is wheelchair accessible. So I just wanted to remind everyone of the table. Awesome. And then I wanted to share the wheelchair accessible swing at Bill Bowers Park broke last fall. So we removed it and we're in the process of replacing it. We're considering replacing it with the same model as before, which is what we're showing here. There's also the option to get an accessible swing that's not necessarily wheelchair accessible, but it is accessible for people of different abilities. So this is what we're looking at now. It's just under $2,000 for the swing and for the delivery. But just wanted to share with Pear that we'll be replacing the swing at Bill Bowers.
You know, Jillian, I wonder if that second swing would get more usage. I don't know.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
Anybody want to weigh in on that? Their thoughts?
Well, I
'Cause-
think the reason we had chosen this one is because there was a family up in the neighborhood that had a child in a wheelchair. So
Right.
maybe, I don't know if they still live there, but maybe it would be worth asking them or finding out what would work best for their family. I don't know.
Yeah,
Do
but else?
you know their name?
No, that was years ago. I'd have to go through all my emails to try to track that down. Oh,
I'm with you on
Yes.
that, Chris, that it would be good to find that out, but it also might be impossible to find out.
yeah.
What's the price difference? Do you remember, Jillian?
The price difference between the wheelchair accessible and the non-wheelchair accessible?
Yeah,
Well, that's a great question, Jan. Okay. I will get that to you guys by tomorrow. Brad sent me a whole list. But I just showed the one we had before because that's what we were aiming at. But I can send those over. They're probably fairly comparable. The other swing models are plastic. They're basically like a giant seat with a harness that goes over. And they're not metal, they're plastic. So I assume they'd be around the same price, if not less.
I don't know. Maybe we should just go with this since that's what was there. I don't know.
I guess other kids have been using it, eh? I mean, if they're not handicapped, can they swing on it or? I mean, I don't know.
They definitely can. I'm pretty sure that's how it got broken.
Oh.
The chains were kind of a mess. But yeah, we've seen other kids on it. They like to kind of group on there and swing back and forth since it's like a platform.
Mhm.
So it's usable by other folks, but it's designed for wheelchairs.
Well, maybe we should do what you're saying, Jan, is just keep it the same then.
Yeah, the other thing is usable and abusable, if you will.
Right.
Being abused as a result of it. You know, kids are kids. They're going to pile on and have a good time with it. So just recognize we'll need to replace it again too.
Jillian, is the other one you're considering an all abilities one?
I am not sure. I'll have to get back to you on that.
That might be a good option, right?
That's kind of why I was asking what finding out what the price differential was, and from what I remember from when we put in, and we're looking at the other one, I thought the other one, as far as a multi-ability, this one is just definitely for a wheelchair and for kids having a good time.
I hate to be kind of like a fun squasher, but it seems like if a bunch of kids are going to pile on it and maybe not use it in the way it's intended, that might not be safe. And it could, yeah, someone could get hurt or something if they're not.
Yeah, no, the all user may be more obviously designed for a single user rather than the wheelchair. If you're looking at it, it might look like something that is, you know, a party swing. So sometimes the design does communicate, right, the intended use. So the multi-user may be good for multiple reasons. I like that idea.
And if we hear from people that, you know, we went that direction, I guess if we hear from people that they do want one like this, we could revisit that at a later date.
Okay,
per-
well. Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. I was just gonna say, maybe we should like I have a bunch of, you know, friends or people I know that live in that neighborhood. I could reach out and see if anyone knows if that family is still up there.
And I think Mercy Morrison knew them.
And their child must be
big now.
teenager by now
Yeah,
and maybe isn't so much, you know, interested in the playground.
right.
Yeah, if we could connect with them, that would be great. It's a neighborhood park, so the majority of the folks using the park, I assume, are folks who can walk there. So that would be helpful if we could get that information. And in the meantime, I'll look into the all abilities swing as well. All
Thanks,
right.
Jillian.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jillian.
And that's it. Short and sweet. Thanks, everybody.
Jillian, I
Great.
do have a quick question for you. I didn't see your and Matthew's presentations in the packet this time. Will that be happening in the future? Generally?
Yes, it will be. Yeah, last week I didn't get it in on time by the Wednesday deadline. So in the future, I will have the director's report in the packet and Matthew will have his presentation in there as well.
Awesome. So Candace, that is a good thing for you to know. Oftentimes I'll just write in the minutes, like, see Jillian's report in the packet, or, you know, something to that effect.
Okay, any more questions for Jillian? Okay, let's move on to old business. I need some formal approvals from Para. First one is a formal approval for the memorial bench in 7 Minute Springs. The location is, if you guys can remember, it was right in between that new sculpture that's there and the tree that's there. But do you remember that location? It's right off the path as you're walking up to 7 Minute Springs from El Paso. Can I get a formal approval to okay that location and get installing the bench there? Oh,
I make a motion,
yes, go ahead, Jen.
I make a motion that we install the bench in 7 Minute as we have approved from before, seen from the location.
Can I get a second? I'll second that. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that motion passes. At our strategic planning meeting that we had, there was a draft for the Higginbotham Flats RFP for the master plan design. And I wanted an approval from Parab of the draft content before we move forward with that RFP. Do you guys remember what that was, or do I need to reread it again? Maybe I should reread it again just for the record, eh? So the project description of this project, the city of Manitou Springs is seeking proposals from qualified professionals to design and build the Manitou Springs Ute Overlook Park on Higginbotham Flats to include a 7-rock cairn sculpture, which will be surrounded by native pollinator gardens, honoring the region's indigenous tribes and plants. Other garden areas with seating overlooking Engelman Canyon and the surrounding Manitou Mountains can be included in the design, including a rainwater collection structure and other complementary elements. Park will be a model of sustainability, low maintenance, native plantings, permeable parking and walkways, and natural materials. To be in alignment with the Ute Overlook Park vision, which we also talked about the name, it doesn't have to, stay Ute Overlook Park, but just for these purposes, it's being identified as such. Renderings should include the following key components. 1, a sculpture honoring the Native American tribes of this region. A preliminary design by artist Manuel Pulido will be refined and incorporated as part of the final design. 2, native pollinator gardens, a demonstration garden with native plantings, trees, shrubs, wildflowers, intended to encourage wildlife and pollinator activity. 3, pathways, permeable pathways to encourage the enjoyment of the garden and overlooks. 4, landscaped parking. Parking area should be designed to seamlessly transition to the park area and be constructed of permeable materials. 5, signage, appropriate signage to include specific community landmarks, wildlife, and Native American information. 6, seating, overlook, and garden seating to encourage reflection and enhance visitors' enjoyment of the park. 7, rainwater collection structure, a multi-purpose structure intended to demonstrate innovative methods of rainwater collection. The structure might also serve as a pavilion for picnicking and small social gatherings. 8, buffer zones, berms, natural berms to improve sight lines associated with surrounding commercial businesses and to minimize noise from the highway. And number 9, no lighting. And then it just kind of goes on about an essential component of this project is public input. The selected contractor will be required to meet twice with the Park and Rec Advisory Board, once with the general public, and a presentation to City Council for a total of 4 meetings. Ideally, an initial meeting with Parab will occur to launch the project and gather preliminary input. Following this meeting, the contractor will create 2 design drawings options for Parab to consider and offer feedback. A second meeting with the public will be presented with the designs for consideration and feedback, and the third meeting with Parab will be necessary to finalize a design prior to construction. This draft drawing will then be presented to City Council for their review. When possible, meetings can occur via Zoom. And that's kind of the crux of the draft to build the RFP on.
Danu, what about
Yes.
the composting toilet?
I didn't put that in there because Save the Flats wasn't on board with that. And so that's up for discussion. That could be something that can be discussed with the rest of the public. And how does Parab feel about it? I think part of Save the Flats' concern was that it was going to open it up to a lot of homeless people using it, and then they were concerned about the maintenance part of it, putting more burdens on staff to maintain it and to clean it and things of that nature. Go ahead, Jen.
I think that's gonna happen anyway.
Regardless,
Yeah, if there's not a composting toilet, people will stop there and relieve themselves in some other way. So in some ways, having a composting toilet would be a positive, I think, with the other things that Save the Flats mentions as far as concerns. But I think the impetus for it being a natural, sustainable composting, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
okay. Anybody else?
I agree with Jan.
Okay,
Again, I think that design can communicate intended use, but also I just personally have a hard time making decisions based on potential negatives, and I'd rather focus on the positive of having that present for anybody that might want to, use that space for the intended purposes. And I don't think that we should take what I think is probably a present but small risk and penalize the majority of people who would want to use such a nice contemplative space.
And I think it could be an educational piece too. You could have an information about how composting toilets work and why that was chosen, et cetera. And it's part of all the sustainability concept there.
okay. Anybody else? Opinions, thoughts on that?
Did you say Jillian?
Sure, Jillian. You have thoughts
Oh.
on that?
Yeah, I definitely think there should be a restroom up there. Just from experience with open spaces without restrooms, people will go wherever they need to go, and there's not a lot of, I mean, they can drive down into Manitou, but I think it would be extremely wise to have a toilet at Higginbotham Flats. And I think a composting toilet sounds great.
Okay. Okay,
Sorry, I guess I was wondering if, was there anything else that was sort of nixed from the list that Parab had created that Save the Flats didn't like?
that was the only thing. Yeah, the rest of it, they were good with, but I'm sure that, I don't think it's a hard and fast kind of, I mean, we gotta work in partnership, and so, and all of your feedback is good feedback. Yeah, Natalie, do you have any thoughts on that from City Council?
No, I think it's great, and this conversation has been interesting, and I always have to go to the bathroom, so.
Candace, Anthony, you guys have any thought? Rebecca, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did we talk or discuss like with the seating, was there any like shade options? For some of that, like whether it's like a pergola or something that could be incorporated, because I'm thinking of, when you're sitting there just baking in the sun, that might be nice for elders to have some coverage.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
That could definitely be something that we talked to the architectural design team about, seeing if we could create some kind of pergola or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all sounds good, and it's interesting to see what they come up with. Like, I don't know where, just to dwell on the toilet question again, like the composting toilet, if it's still the state of the art is like you have like a barrel of wood chips next to it and everyone has to put that in. But I assume it's developed somewhat from that point, and they'll be able to manage it effectively and not get a ton of trash in there. I think that's the thing that damages those systems if people put in plastics and things like that in there. And then, I think it'd be interesting to see what people come up with in terms of design stuff. And we talked about kind of just the fact, the overlook aspect and kind of connecting to different Manitou, like history and things like that. So it'd be interesting to see what they come up with.
think the composting toilets that I have been around, Anthony, they have a solar aspect to it, so it ends up taking care of the deposits, and you don't have to add wood chips.
You know, Jillian, Brad came to us via, he used to manage all the area up on Pikes Peak, right? The catamounts and everything.
Yeah,
So they have composting toilets up there at Catamount at Crystal Reservoir. They have a really nice composting toilet there. He'd be a good one to ask to get more information about maintaining those and how they work and things of that nature. He'd be a really good one to ask about those.
Yeah, aren't those all made by a company from Fort Collins?
They might be, yeah. I mean, they've come a
Because
long
there
way.
is signage that describes what they do. And they have a great name. Aren't they called like the BM 3000 or something?
I don't know.
I can't remember exactly. It's not paddleboarding time yet, so I haven't been up in a while, but
That's funny. That's a great name. Okay, well, all right. Well, I'll add that in there, okay? And then I'll just whenever Save the Flats meets again, I'll just pass that along to them that Parab wanted to add that in there. And the other thing that I haven't forgotten about, Jillian, too, is you mentioned that the fire department wanted a location for a fire hydrant up there. So
yes, they do.
we can add that when we talk to the architectural designers there and
Okay.
kind of figure out where a good plan for that would be. Okay, so can somebody make a motion to approve the draft content with the addition of the ADA composting toilet added to it for the RFP?
I will make that motion as presented, and it is well written. Thank you.
Okay, great. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have voted on that. Anybody opposed? Okay, I should recuse myself from that vote. Sorry, I forgot. Okay, motion passes. And then we're gonna do a walkthrough for the location of the chess table at Shriver Park. Date to be determined. And moving on to item 8, other business. Begin dialogue with OSAC in regards to the Serpentine Creek Walk. I included a map of the newly city purchased Serpentine Road and the whale's tail that goes with that property. Looking at it, my dream is to be able to take the creek walk the way what they're working on right now and get a footbridge going across the creek so that we could get to the other side to access the property that the city owns, and then somehow build a trail that would get us up to Higginbotham Flats. But looking at the map, it'd be great if we could somehow figure out a way to purchase lot 16, because then we could have a little bit more leeway to get a switchbacks instead of just going up that narrow piece of property. But for right now, I just wanted to make sure that Parab was on board with that thought process that I had. I know that when Skylar was here, we had talked about that. And I just wanted to make sure Parab was still on board with that kind of vision to go
So
ahead.
Danu, are you thinking about a combination of Para buying it or OSAC buying section 16 or parcel 16, or what were your thoughts about?
Well, I hadn't quite gotten that far, Jan. It was just a wishful thinking that it would be nice if somehow we could at least open discussion with the, and it's the Mineral Springs people who own that property.
Ah, okay. And I personally like the idea of going that route and doing some switchbacks. because that way it takes us away from direct access to Rainbow Falls, which we don't know when and how often that's going to be open. And keeping it off of Serpentine Drive is the primary thing that I think would be important.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, Danu, can you clarify, is that owned by the Mineral Springs Foundation or owned by the Manitou bottling owners?
Manitou bottling owners,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Dr. Kwan, I think, who maybe has passed away since then, but his family still owns that property. I'm thinking that the city had to negotiate with those folks, so they would still have a contact. If OSAC sounded interested to try to pursue that purchase, but I don't know. It probably would cost a lot of money, so I don't know. So, but I guess just for right now, if we could just get a footbridge going across the creek just so that we could access the other side, so that we wouldn't be stuck just walking along the roadway there, along the Creek Walk Trail, which will be, I guess it'll be a concrete sidewalk, basically, right, Jillian? To my understanding.
Yeah, that's the thought right now, an accessible path, just like the rest of their Creek Walk Trail going up to Rainbow Falls.
Mm-hmm. And another thought I had too was there is a partial trail that goes along the creek that's similar to like the nature trail that's across from the Briarhurst, and then up above is the sidewalk. What I would love to do is to go ahead and find some monies to try to develop that trail along the creek better, to try to get around some of the land obstacles, because the creek goes along so far and then it runs into a land obstacle. So it would be great if we could like partner with the trail building crew or something and clean that trail up so that we could have an alternative beside walking up there on the concrete, where we could actually on the creek like what's existing right now across from the Briarhurst, that natural
OSAC
trail there.
might-
Do you guys?
OSAC might have some suggestions on how to connect with Rimfee. Because
Yeah,
they use Rimfee and what's the other one? There's another one that they use for their trails too.
Mile High Youth Corps.
Yeah, Mile
that's it.
High Youth
Mile
Corps,
High.
that's it.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to go ahead and run all these ideas past Parab to make sure that everyone was kind of on the same page before I go to OSAC and present all this as kind of our thoughts of where we could go with that whole area down there. Any other questions, comments?
I'm on board.
Okay, great. Then Jillian, I guess I should get with you and talk about what's on their schedule and what's on their agendas and stuff like that. Kind of figure out when the best time I could fit in there without I guess I could just appear under Parab though, right?
You could. They have a Parab section at their meetings, so I'm sure they'd love to have a representative from Parab there. So you could just be at the next meeting, Danu. But I think it'd be prudent to give Tim a heads up.
Oh yeah,
Just so he knows maybe to leave some extra time in the agenda.
yep. I'll do that. I'll get with him. So, okay. Then the last bit that I have under other business is at our strategic retreat, we talked about having some kind of a update article in the Pikes Peak Bulletin that would help to inform and update the community as to what Parab is doing. A while back, I was approached by the Bulletin. All of us heads of our advisory boards, we contributed quarterly to the paper to give updates to the community as to what we were all doing. I'm not suggesting something that rigorous, but I just wanted to see what you all thought about maybe having a blurb here and there in the bulletin, just to update the community as to what PARIB's doing, just so that they can be informed. And also, if we want them to weigh in, to let them know where they can do that at via a poll or a survey, something like that.
Didn't
I
you
would-
used to write articles about quarterly for the paper, as I recall?
Yeah, I did.
Any remembrance about how they were received? I thought they were helpful and helped kind of highlight what our board does.
Mm-hmm. Candace, did you wanna? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I write and publish, and I'm freelance edit. I would love to write those things.
Oh, that would be great, Candace. Yay! Not only
I
is she
didn't
the
know-
secretary,
I
she could be our
didn't know.
PR person. Awesome. All right,
Not
that'd be
much
great.
excitement. Yay. No, I would love that.
All right, great.
Okay.
Great. And I'd be happy to sit down and chat with you a little bit about that. 'cause
Amazing.
I could probably actually send you a couple of those articles. I might still have those somewhere in my dustbin. that I can-
Amazing. I would love that. Yes.
Yeah, and they don't have to be that entailed, but just to kind of, for PR purposes, so that
Yeah.
the community knows what PARIB's up to, and if something's coming down the pike that we would like them to weigh in on, for like the, what do you call those windshields? Those things that,
Windscreens
Screens.
yeah, thank you, windscreens.
and maybe some update about the coming up with a tree committee.
Yes, absolutely. All that. That'd be great. That'd be great, Candace.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And then I just on another note that I don't have on the agenda, Tim, did you want to give any kind of update on the Art Walk project?
Sure. I reestablished communication with Crane a week ago. Waiting to hear more from them about potential call for art, or where such a thing might be sourced. So more to come.
Okay. And then I was just wondering if anybody had any feelings about the windscreens, because as I've been thinking about them, I actually thought about visibility being an issue, because I like to see what's going on inside the court and who's using it and who's not using it properly. And I also think that law enforcement likes to have a clear line of sight to see what's going on in the courts too. And I'm concerned that the windscreens would cut the visibility down, but that was just the thought that I had, and I just wanted to throw that out there and see if anybody else had any thoughts.
I kind of feel the same, Danu, and I wish Colin was here because I think he's the one that brought it up.
Right.
But I think if there's a way to devise some kind of survey, Jillian, where you can, I don't know. Listing the pros and cons probably is maybe a ridiculous comment, but and maybe finding out from the police department what they think about it too.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to ask MSPD, and the windscreens don't have to cover the entirety of the fencing around the courts. We can strategically place them. We would need to figure out like which areas are the best to block the gusts of wind that come through. But I'm happy to connect with the police and see what their thoughts are. Because they're also called privacy screens. Windscreen and privacy screen are interchangeable.
Mm.
Are they Are they pretty expensive, Jillian?
Actually, they're pretty cheap. It's $100, basically to cover an entire side of the court. So, I mean, roughly $400 would cover the court itself. So they are cheap. It's like plasticky material.
Right. And tennis folks need to weigh in as well.
Okay, do we wanna move forward with the survey, or do we wanna like have one more discussion when Colin's here?
Danu, Natalie had a comment, I think.
Do you have a comment, Natalie?
Well, I just happened to have a resident email me yesterday, and he was a tennis player who asked for a windscreen.
Ah,
So
There
just
you-
thought I'd share that. Just one person, but still interesting.
but still, yeah. Thank you, Natalie. Alrighty, well, I guess then, what?
Just as an aside, if we were to get them, my preference from what Jillian said would be on the west and south side and leave the east and north side open.
Which sides are those, Jan?
The west side is closest to the tree and the wash, and the south side is closest to the Creek Walk Trail.
What side faces El Paso Beckers, Lover's
North.
Lane,
North,
north? Is that the side that you would keep open?
yes.
Yeah, then that way the police could look in there while they're driving by, huh?
Yeah, the north and the east side, because the east side is with the parking lot, and I think as people come in, they want to see what's available also. And I understand they aren't totally opaque, but visibility again.
Okay,
That would cut down on probably most of the wind. I mean, the wind usually comes from the west, or, I mean, it cut down on some of the wind.
mm-hmm. I guess, yeah, the wind does usually come from the west, doesn't it?
I mean, the weather usually comes from the west, but, and also it could be like a trial, like see if it helps, and then,
It'll come from the north too, but that's usually in the wintertime and not as the courts aren't used as much during that time with storms and stuff in the north, when they're from the north.
Natalie, maybe you could reach out to that person who asked for windscreens and ask them if they had a preference, what side that they would want the windscreen to be installed on. And then I guess that can be included in the poll, right? Or the
Right.
survey?
I guess, well,
Go ahead, Anthony.
I was thinking if you did the east side of both, you would get, that would be both sides of the pickleball courts and then one side of the tennis court. So, I mean, if you have a fence on one side, it does cut the wind cutting through. So, but cut down some of the noise. But I think having the north side open makes a lot of sense, so you can see it from the road, obviously. And I was seeing the east side or the west side rather while you're driving in, you can see it. But yeah, it's a bunch of different reasons, I guess.
Okay. Okay, so what should we direct Miss Jillian to do, Tara?
Get some feedback from Colin and from Natalie from the tennis persons, and then determine what we want maybe on the survey. And
Okay.
Jillian might have some better ideas too about what to put on there.
I think it'd be fun to do like an actual survey. Like we could put up 2 windscreens for like $200 and then make it super simple. Like people can thumbs up it or thumbs down it. And then like at the end of a month, I think we'd have our answer. But that would be, we'd have to put some money on the table for that sort of test. I don't know, it's a very cheap and easy to install piece of equipment. So I'm down to do whatever you guys need me to do as far as surveying, but I think it'd be cool to field test it. That's what it's called.
Ah,
Yeah,
That's
if you
my
just,
thought.
I mean, there's a fence running down the middle between the court, the pickleball and the tennis courts. And if you just ran it down that middle, you'd get what Jan was saying on the west side of the pickleball courts, and it would give a little break from between the two courts. So that might, yeah. So you get
yeah,
a T like you did the middle and then the south side.
I think people would not like to have the middle done. But
You
maybe
say
tennis
whatever.
maybe tennis players would like to have it done.
Yeah.
well, Jillian, you could take, you could take the money from the El Paso Becker's Lane Maintenance Fund.
Okay, so the courts are fair game for that fund?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and we could do both. We could have it up and also do a survey. There's lots of ways we could look into this. But I'm happy to work with Mitchell to get a survey going.
Okay. But what I hear Parab say is that we're gonna hold off and get a little bit more input first from Natalie, from the person who asked, and then from Colin to hear what his thought was. Is that right, you guys?
I mean, I can do that. I don't know how much one person's input helps in this conversation, but he's
I
definitely.
like Jillian's
What
idea
else
of
do we
field
need?
testing it.
Well, we could. I mean,
Like, let's just move forward with something. Like, why do we, it's like a windscreen. Like, is it really that important? I mean, sure, keep the north side open so the police can keep an eye on it, but like block some wind. Even if it goes in between the two courts, you could start it like 6 feet up so that you can still see over there. I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal that we need to like keep hashing it out.
I agree. I think we should do this and move on.
okay, cool. Let's vote on it. Okay, you guys? Okay, I'll make a motion that Jillian use funds from the El Paso Becker's Maintenance Fund to purchase 2 windscreens, well, material to cover the east side and the west side of the pickleball tennis courts. Is that correct, you guys?
I say west and south.
Remind me west and south again. Oh, west. Yeah. West faces the skate bowl. Is that right?
No,
No, that's east.
Oh,
Well, we're gonna do 2 sides and we're gonna field test it. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming
Well-
that this is something that can be moved. If we start with west and south and that's not good, then we can change it. Am I wrong or does that seem correct?
They're movable. We can adjust them. And Danu, the south side is the creek side. of the
oh, okay,
courts.
thanks.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Okay. Well, let's just agree to do 2 sides, okay, you guys? Yeah?
Love it.
Sounds good.
I think
Okay,
I'm seconding that motion.
okay. All right, great. All in favor? Aye.
I,
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, go for the gusto, Jillian. All right, is there anything else? Okay, then I would like to adjourn our meeting and thank you, everybody. Do we need a motion to adjourn our meeting?
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, all right. I'll second that. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.